The laugh came first. Not surprise. Not confusion. Not even denial. Laughter, light, effortless, almost affectionate, as if I'd just made a harmless joke. "It's not like you ever travel anyway, Holly," my mother said. "Stop being so dramatic." For a moment, I didn't respond. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I was trying to understand how $12,700 could disappear from my credit card in under 10 seconds and still somehow be my fault. I lowered the phone and stared at my laptop screen. $20,300. 7-night Caribbean cruise. Ocean view balcony suite. The numbers were too clean, too final, the kind of numbers that didn't apologize. When I lifted the phone again, my mother was still talking. "You work all the time," she continued. "You never even use a vacation like that. Brittany, on the other hand, she needed this." Needed? That word echoed louder than the laugh. "Mom," I said slowly, carefully, "you used my credit card." She sighed, the long, theatrical kind, as if I were a child complaining about vegetables. "Oh, for heaven's sake, you make good money, and you know Brittany, been having a hard time." I pressed my fingers into the edge of the table. My coffee sat untouched, cold already. "A hard time?" I asked. "She charged $12,000 without asking." "She's your sister," my mother snapped. "And we're your parents. What's yours is ours. That's how family works." Family. The word landed heavy, familiar, weaponized. I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. The apartment around me was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. Beige walls, thin carpet, a place that still didn't feel like home, even after 2 years. "You should be happy for us," my mother added. "We've sacrificed so much for you kids." "For us," she said, "not Brittany." "And besides," she finished lightly, "you're always too busy to go anywhere anyway." That's when something changed. It wasn't explosive. There was no shouting, no tears, just a quiet click in my chest like a lock finally turning. "You're right," I said. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, steady, calm. "I hope you have a wonderful time." There was silence on the line. My mother didn't like silence. Silence meant she didn't control the narrative. "Well," she said after a moment, cautious now, "that's more like it." We hung up. I sat there long after the call ended, staring at the charge, at my reflection in the dark screen, at the 33 years of decisions that had led to this exact moment. For the first time, I didn't feel angry. I felt awake. I didn't become the responsible one overnight. It was shaped into me, slowly, patiently, the way water wears down stone. I was 8 years old the first time I understood it clearly. I had made the honor roll for the first time, perfect attendance, straight A's. I came home gripping my report card so tightly it bent at the corners. My parents were in the living room clapping for Brittany, who had just finished a dance recital. She hadn't practiced much. She'd forgotten half the routine, but she smiled brightly when she bowed, soaking in applause like sunlight. "Look," I said, holding out my report card. My mother glanced at it briefly. "That's nice, Holly. You've always been smart." Then she turned back to Brittany. Later that year, I saved my allowance for months to buy a used bike from a neighbor. The day I brought it home, Brittany burst into tears because she wanted one too. "You're the older sister," my father told me. "You should set a good example." So I gave it to her. That pattern followed me everywhere. I worked part-time in high school, while Brittany focused on finding herself. I went to a state university on scholarships, while my parents paid for Brittany's private college because it fit her personality better. I graduated early, got a stable job, saved aggressively. Brittany moved home 3 times. By the time I was 29, I had enough for a down payment on a modest 3-bedroom house. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. The first thing I'd ever owned outright. 4 months after I moved in, my father called me late one night, his voice shaking. "We've lost everything," he said. "The retirement account, it was a scam." I didn't hesitate. "Come stay with me," I said. Just for a little while. They moved in the next weekend. They never moved out. At first, it was temporary. Boxes stacked in the hallway, furniture squeezed into corners. My parents thanked me constantly, promised it wouldn't be long. Then it shifted. My mother didn't like my couch. She replaced it. My father needed a space of his own. My office became his. The spare bedroom filled with Brittany's things, just in case. Slowly, my house stopped feeling like mine. When I dated someone seriously and brought him over, my mother pulled me aside. "It's inappropriate," she said. "This is our home now." I remember standing there, keys in my hand, realizing she was serious. I moved out 6 months later. I found a small apartment closer to work, told myself it was temporary, told myself I was being mature. I kept paying the mortgage because it was easier. Because it was always easier for me to adjust. And now, sitting in my apartment staring at a cruise charge I never approved, I finally saw the full picture. They didn't love me. They loved what I provided. The next morning, I didn't go to work. I sat at my kitchen table long after sunrise, coffee untouched, phone face down. I didn't ask anyone what I should do. I didn't need validation. I needed action. I called a real estate agent. "My parents live in the house," I said calmly. "I own it. I want to sell." There was a pause. "Are they aware?" she asked gently. "No," I said. "They'll be on vacation." Another pause. "Okay," she said. "Let's talk." 2 days later, I walked through my house with Denise while my parents packed for their cruise upstairs, laughing loudly, oblivious. I pointed out features like a visitor. Updated kitchen. New roof. Hardwood floors I refinished myself. "You've built a lot of equity," Denise said. "This will sell quickly." Equity I'd never enjoyed. "List it," I said. "I want it sold before they get back." Denise studied my face for a moment, then nodded. That was the day I stopped explaining myself. The listing went live on a Tuesday morning. I remember because my mother was making pancakes in my kitchen when the notification hit my phone. She was humming, cheerful, careless, moving around the space like it had always belonged to her. The smell of butter and sugar filled the air, warm and nostalgic in a way that felt almost cruel. "You should really come with us next time," she said without turning around. "You work too much. You don't know how to enjoy life." I leaned against the counter, watching her flip the pancake. My name was still on the mortgage. My name was still on the deed, but she spoke as if I were a guest in her routine. "I'm fine," I said. She glanced over her shoulder. Frowning slightly, "You always say that." My phone buzzed again. 3 saves, 1 showing request. It had been less than an hour. Later that afternoon, after my parents left to meet friends, I walked through the house alone. The rooms were quieter without them, smaller, like they were holding their breath. I stood in the doorway of what used to be my bedroom. The walls were painted a soft gray I'd chosen carefully. Neutral, calm, my mother hated it. "This color feels cold," she'd said when she moved in. "It doesn't feel welcoming." She repainted it cream. I traced my fingers along the doorframe, remembering nights I lay awake here, calculating bills in my head, wondering when adulthood would start feeling like something other than survival. My phone buzzed again. Multiple offers expected. I exhaled slowly. Good. The week before the cruise passed quickly. Suitcases appeared in the hallway. New clothes, new shoes. My mother asked my opinion on outfits like I was excited for her. "How do I look?" she asked, stepping out of her bedroom in a flowing dress. "Nice," I said because that was easier. Brittany came over twice, dropping off last-minute things. She didn't mention the credit card charge. Neither did I. She talked about the ship, how big it was, how luxurious, how much she deserved this break. "I've just been so stressed," she said, flopping onto the couch. "You're lucky you don't have my life." Lucky. That night, I lay in my apartment bed staring at the ceiling while my phone buzzed with messages from Denise. Second showing booked. Strong interest. Cash buyer wants to move fast. I slept better than I had in months. The morning they left for the cruise, my mother hugged me longer than usual. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." I nodded. I didn't trust myself to speak. An hour later, I was back in my apartment when my phone buzzed. A photo. My parents standing on a balcony overlooking endless blue water, champagne glasses raised, sunlight on their faces. "Wish you were here." 3 laughing emojis. I stared at the image longer than I should have. They looked happy, free, untethered. My phone buzzed again. Offer accepted. All cash, close in 7 days. The timing was almost poetic. I met the buyers on a Thursday afternoon. A young couple, newly married. They held hands as they walked through the house, whispering to each other, imagining things aloud. "This would be perfect for a nursery," the woman said softly. "And I could build shelves here," her husband replied, eyes bright. They asked me questions about the neighborhood, about schools, about winter. No one asked if the house was welcoming enough. No one tried to claim it without earning it. When they left, the house felt lighter. That night, I signed the final paperwork. The next morning, the funds appeared in my account. I stared at the number for a long time. Then I made my first call. The morning the money hit my account, I didn't celebrate. I didn't smile. I didn't breathe easier. I just sat at my desk, staring at the balance like it might accuse me of something. Then I picked up my phone. The credit card company answered on the second ring. "Yes," I said evenly when the representative asked how they could help. "I need to report an unauthorized charge." There was a pause as she pulled up my account. $12,700, she said slowly. "Cruise line purchase." "That's correct," I replied. "I didn't approve it." She asked the standard questions. I answered calmly, methodically. I didn't explain my family history. I didn't justify myself. Facts were enough. "We'll open an investigation," she said. "In the meantime, we'll reverse the charge." I thanked her and hung up. My second call came immediately after. I didn't hesitate this time either. The travel agent's voice was warm and professional. "Where would you like to go?" I thought for a moment. Somewhere cold. Somewhere quiet. Somewhere that didn't remind me of them. "Alaska," I said, "solo." She paused, surprised. "When?" I glanced at my calendar. "The day after my parents' return," I said. She laughed softly. Perfect timing. When the confirmation email arrived, something in my chest loosened for the first time in years. That night, I packed slowly. Not out of excitement. Out of intention. The day my parents returned home, I boarded my ship. I turned my phone off as the dock disappeared behind us. When I turned it back on hours later, the screen lit up like a warning sign. 30 missed calls. 17 voicemails. I didn't listen right away. I went to dinner first. White tablecloths, soft lighting, the quiet hum of conversation. I ordered wine without checking the price. I ate slowly. Then, back in my cabin, I pressed play. "Holly," my mother's voice cracked. "There are strangers in the house. They say they own it." Another message. "The police made us leave," my father said. His voice sounded older, smaller. By the 10th voicemail, my mother was crying openly. "You can't do this to us," she sobbed. "We're your family." I deleted them all. Every single one. The next morning, glaciers rose out of the fog like something ancient and unmovable. I stood on the deck, wrapped in a thick coat, breath visible in the air. The cold burned my lungs in a way that felt honest. This place didn't care who I was supposed to be. I watched whales breach the surface of the water, slow, powerful, indifferent to my past. For the first time in my life, I felt small in a way that wasn't humiliating. I felt free. Days passed. I slept deeply. I read books I'd abandoned halfway through years ago. I sat alone without feeling lonely. And slowly, quietly, I stopped bracing for impact. On the fourth day, I turned my phone back on. One message remained. From Brittany. You ruined everything. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed. The house was mine. You lived there for free. You stole from me. I'm done. I blocked her before she could reply. It wasn't anger that pushed me to do it. It was clarity. 8 months later, there was a knock at my door. Brittany stood on the other side. She looked different, thinner, tired, older. They treat me the way they treated you, she said quietly. I see it now. I didn't invite her in. I'm not coming back, I told her. She nodded. I know. When she left, I didn't feel guilty. Some lessons need time to land. A year after the cruise, my mother sent a letter. It was long. Blame wrapped in nostalgia. Guilt disguised as love. Responsibility shifted carefully back onto me. I read it once. Then I shredded it. Piece by piece. I live in Denver now. Mountains outside my window. A job where my work is seen. A life that feels quiet in the best way. I no longer apologize for existing. I didn't destroy my family. I stopped sacrificing myself to save people who never planned to save me back. And that was the moment my life finally began.